Yeah, it was very special, very special. For lots of reasons. Just to win a Grand Slam in Dublin, in Lansdowne Road, the headquarters of Irish Rugby, only the fourth in history. And of course, Johnny Sexton's last game, breaking the record, England, St. Patrick's Day, World Player of the Year's 50th cap, almost got lost in it all. It was just the perfect script, unnervingly perfect, it almost felt going into the game. But I think that was part of the issue now, that there was a little bit of an almost nervousness, apprehensiveness among the crowd, particularly in that first quarter of the game, because I think this is almost like what it's like being a New Zealander following the All Blacks. Suddenly we've got this all-conquering team, probably the best Irish rugby team in history now, given they won a series in New Zealand last year and all the other landmarks, and is it 22 wins out of the last 24. So but they came through, found a different way. I think it was almost good that they were stressed. You don't want everything shouldn't be so easy. And they learned from this in a couple of ways. One, that they were a little bit nervous and forced offloads and made 18 handling errors and weren't quite at their best, as Johnny Sexton pretty much admitted straight afterwards. Yet, as they do, they found 5 different ways to win 5 matches out of 5 without ever really looking like they were going to lose, and also like they could have won by more, that they'd more in the tank, which is not a bad place to be. But yeah, I love the fact that they played free from Desire at the full-time whistle, and the whole crowd, just young and old, just sang and danced and waved their flags, danced up and down. It was a very special atmosphere, and it's great that we could celebrate a Grand Slam in its own right, and it was a privilege for all of us to be there, wasn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And it does polish up the Irish CV generally, Andy, when you think it was one Grand Slam in 61 years, to go 3 and 15, and now 5 Six Nations titles in 15 years as well, 09, 14, 15, 18, 23. So that's getting a bit more appropriate with where we think Irish rugby has been for the last 20, 25 years.
Yeah, I think it's bang on the money in terms of what we deserve, based on the consistency over that period of pretty high performing teams. There were some great moments over those years, but one of the nicest moments I think I've seen was as the team went on the lap of honour, and it was so wholesome, and the kids were there being thrown up and down with the cup, the management kind of stole up quietly to the podium. Everyone's eyes in the stadium was on the team going around, and rightly so. The management, all the staff, a couple of their kids and families went up and got a very under the radar photo where they celebrated their own moment. And I thought that just indicates it's just a little bit of an insight into them. I think they're a very understated management group. They definitely try to not steal the limelight. Someone like Eddie Jones likes to be centre of attention, and was all the time with the England team, but the personnel involved, Farrell, Cat, we were chatting off air, Gerry, Simon Easterby, defensive coach. We've conceded 6 tries in this Six Nations, 4 tries in the last one. Ridiculous stats for that level of rugby, and just goes almost unsaid. But they are a very
John Fogarty as well, scrum coach.
Super, yeah. I mean, I know we got penalised in that first scrum, and I heard James Tracy on earlier this morning saying, look, but we still laid down a marker. We went like a bulldozer to them in that scrum. Sometimes you give away the penalty, but we set down a marker that England are not going to come and boss us in that area. But yeah, I do think the coaching quality and just their game IQ does go under the radar, and to me that was a lovely moment. I just happened to pick up by pure chance when I was at the game, was them kind of almost sneaking up apologetically to get a team photo of their own, as the crowd lauded the heroic players, you know.
Yes,
didn't spot that.
And Ireland, on the defensive point, the stat was widely shared on Twitter, have conceded fewer tries across 2 Six Nations championships
this season
than every other team this season. And again, we don't talk about the defence all that often. We've bemoaned a few too many missed tackles.
Yeah, and perhaps because of the force of personality and the reputation of Andy Farrell and Paul O'Connell, we in the media discuss them a lot more. And Simon Easterby has a kind of a lower public persona as well, but clearly his influence in shifting across the defence has been profound. All those who are ever coached by him say he's excellent, and he deserves mention for that. And it's of course it helps, as he admits himself, that the head coach is a former defence coach. So like Andy Farrell and Johnny Sexton both say that they place a higher premium on their defence than their attack. And if you see Andy Farrell in the coach's box celebrating a hard-won turnover in the defensive red zone, he's almost happier about those than he is about when tries are scored at the other end. And I think it's very much a benchmark of this team's kind of stubborn belief and what they're all about, really, the defence.
Was Gerry Thornley happy with the atmosphere? Is there going to be a reprimand in the pages of the Irish Times
you
this
couldn't
week?
be. It was great. Mind you, as I said last week, if the Aviva wasn't going to be a fever this day, it was never going to be, was it? But it was perfect. 5 o'clock, Patrick's weekend, lots of people wearing green. The pre-match build-up was excellent. I still think there's one or two things they could do better to make it even better again. And I thought a little bit of the turning point actually in that nervous opening quarter when Ireland didn't score early as they had been doing up until the last two matches was when England, when Hugo Keenan of all people sliced a kick to touch, Tyke Furlan having made another handling error, that the English fans started to sing Swing Low, and that always gets an Irish crowd going, as I'd imagine it does in Murrayfield or Stade de France or anywhere else. So maybe there should be a memo to England fans not to swing low away from home. And that they also roared on that Irish defensive set, and they broke out from that, and they were in the game, hooked into them there. And it was nice that Ireland had a comfy lead going into the last few minutes, so that there was one last powerful rendition of the fields. It just felt very special.
Did pre-game I thought was amazing. So I had the privilege of being down pitch side, and it did occur to me generally I'm much higher at most games I tend to go, not least in the press box, and the anthems again, because we finish up and we to walk to our seats. You're on the touchline. We better stop because the anthems have started, and it was a surreal experience to be down there feeling like the stadium is like on top of you, and it sounded so loud, and I was thinking, oh my God, I haven't appreciated how much louder it is on the pitch because everyone is staring down at you and screaming in that direction. But then even Rob Kearney did say that was as loud as he had ever heard it pre-game, and he's heard his fair share pre-game. So there was something in the atmosphere fitting for the occasion.
Yeah, and I actually felt similarly like that it was rocking beforehand, but it did get nervous. I wouldn't say it was the crowd getting quiet or not being good supporters. There was a real palpable sense of there was an and I think. And
did you get a feeling it's going to be one of those days for a moment?
I definitely got that feeling. I definitely got it when you saw things like hooks to touch from Hugo Keenan and knock-ons, and I think there was 18 defenders beaten in the first half, but no offloads made, which was really interesting to me because what we were seeing was we were actually doing the right things, but we weren't able to maintain possession or have a continuity to our play. So we were dangerous for a split second almost, but then it broke down somewhere. Whether it was the ball carrier not placing it right, that's very important. If it's bobbling around and you've the likes of a Toje kicking a foot out or whoever trying to be disruptive, or maybe the ruck whoever hit that ruck wasn't as detailed as we typically are, but the ball was loose and bobbling around too much where we just didn't have continuity in that play, and that started to spook me for sure watching it and just thinking, is this going to be one of the great meltdowns?
There you go. That was but a taste of the full rugby conversation. As usual, you can get the full chat wherever you get your podcast. It's waiting for you right now.